Hey buds! As you might know, this is our second year of raising bees, and so we thought we'd tell you a little bit about our honey harvest and then try a little fun infusion in the kitchen. So this year we went from 1 hive up to 4 hives, which meant a lot more bees, and we were actually away quite a bit. Now you may have noticed our videos on the flow hives. Now that is our preferred way of harvesting honey. You simply turn on the tap, it doesn't bother the bees, and it just flows out, which is wonderful. But because we don't have flows for all our hives yet, and because of our schedule, we decided to do kind of a hybrid system. So there were the flows, and if the bees wanted to fill those up, that was great. And if they didn't, they had a box on top where they could store honey as well. So that means in most cases that then you have to get the bees out of the box, and there are chemical means to do that, but we luckily don't have that many, and we do have the time and the ability to do the slower methods. So there are these trap boards which you put between, and the bees, they go in through here, go through the little maze, and then they can't go back up into the box generally. So it takes a bit of time. All the bees kind of exit and shift down, but then you get an empty box that you can take and use the honey from. And again, most people would use what they call extractors, which kind of uses a centrifuge system to spin out the honey after it's been uncapped. And we are not smart enough. Or maybe we're stubborn, or maybe we just haven't decided on what systems we want to use. But since we don't have one of those, we're doing it very much the old-fashioned style, which involves scraping the honey out of each frame and straining and processing it. So it's a really sticky process. It really makes me feel, the honey is precious. And I already thought that because bees, their entire lifetime, they'll probably produce about 1/12 of a teaspoon of honey. That's all they make. So it's a very precious substance that I think, should be given due respect. But on top of that, I put a lot of sticky hot work into it myself. So definitely value our honey. On that note though, although the bees are storing honey as a food source, if we left all the boxes on there for winter, they wouldn't be able to keep the whole hive warm. So we do leave them a bunch of honey for their food stores in the winter. Now, because of where we are in the prairies, there's a lot of canola here. And so on reading, they say that honey can actually get too hard and the bees aren't able to use it as a food source. So we kind of balance that a bit with the sugar syrup that is standard for feeding bees, but also leaving them their standard honey. So hopefully we have done it all right and everybody's all tucked in with their plenty of food, and we're fingers crossed. We are really hoping that our hives will do well this winter. But they share their honey with us and we really appreciate that, but they couldn't use it all even if they wanted to because of our Canadian winters, which they just aren't built for. But I'm gonna go grab some honey and let's try some infusions. So something that I've wanted to try for a while is to try honey garlic, fermented honey garlic. So for this, you just peel your cloves of garlic, give them a little thump kind of to not smash them, but to loosen them up a bit, and then you cover them in honey. And it has to be a local honey that hasn't been pasteurized, so raw honey. And all you simply do is cover that garlic and then let it sit for a while. Just like everything else we're doing. We are going to try to make sure that it all gets in there nice without any air bubbles. You want all your content covered, and then we will let them sit for a week or two, turning them every day if possible. Just kind of flipping them upside down, make sure the lids are giving them a shake, whatever it is. But well, you want a loose cap on these ones because the fermenting one is going to have gases that'll be released. But it's supposed to start getting bubbly, and then we'll have a nice fermented garlic, honey garlic for some chicken wings or something. I don't know. We'll see if it works. But that was the first experiment I wanted to try. So getting on to the infusions, you can do standard ones with just regular spices. So I'm going to do some with cinnamon sticks here, kind of all crushed up. And there we go. And I think I'm going to throw in some anise as well. There we go. And they say you want a tablespoon to 2 tablespoons per cup of honey. So we'll go with that on this one. And we'll see with this experiment whether I run out of jars first, honey first. Not sure. But there's that. Now, the other thing that people might want to do is to use a vanilla bean. This is Charles's idea. He gets the credit for this one. So vanilla, although people consider vanilla plain and all you have it, is actually the stamen of a very specific orchid that has to be hand-picked. So, I mean, it's kind of a very fancy and exotic spice. Let's see. Just want a knife. So we're just gonna cut that and scrape the insides and add it to the jar. So the more surface area you give, the better flavor you're gonna get out of things. But when you strain it, it'll be harder to get it out. So it depends on, you know, how much you want floating around your honey in the end product too. So I think these little vanilla bits will probably not strain out, but the bean part obviously will. And that's okay with me. It smells really nice. So those are very standard things that you can buy and add. And you don't need to have bees for any of this. You can obviously buy honey from a local apiary, or even store-bought honey can be infused. You just can't ferment with it. The fermentation process won't work unless it's unpasteurized. There you go, vanilla honey. Looking forward to this one. There we go. All right, well, those are the kind of honeys that you've probably already tried, but we wanted to get into some, you know, free foraged items, of course. And I think I'm gonna do these in pairs so that we can try one. And then, you know, if we want to gift one, we can also do that too. There'll be one in the wings. So this is dried spruce needles. They smell amazing, and we tend to have them on hand to make the tea. I think we had it in the Oh Christmas Tea episode, if you want to check that one out. Now you could go gather them straight from a tree, but we don't actually want to introduce moisture into the honey because it could cause spoilage. Now the bees, actually, they spend time just beating their wings like frantically to dry the honey to actually reduce the moisture content so that it comes down to less than 20%, and that's when they cap it and it's considered finished. So that is why it's so stable and it can last for thousands of years that way. But once you introduce that moisture back, well, then all bets are off and your honey might go bad on you. So you don't want to do that. Dry herbs and flowers is what we are using to keep that from happening. All right. So I guess that'll do. I think I'll do 2 of those. But I do like the idea of a little bit of forest with our bees because they go to the trees and they get those resins to put into their propolis. So they have a really strong connection with the trees. And we don't take any of their hard work for granted. When it comes to beeswax, it actually takes 20 pounds of honey to produce 1 pound of beeswax, which is why beeswax is amazing, but also those beeswax candles are pretty pricey, and that's the reason. Your trade-off is 20 pounds of honey versus 1 pound of wax. So, and the other thing that they make is the propolis. So this is the stuff that we've scraped off and we're giving a little rinse. Saw that we made propolis lozenges before. That was a popular episode and one that we need to revisit because we've had lots of feedback that there should be more propolis in there. So we'll probably try that again someday. The next one, I'm going to use fireweed flowers. So something we quite like the jellies with the fireweed, and so I want to see what kind of floral flavor it can impart. Here we go. We won't be stingy. Getting some air bubbles. You can come back and top these off, obviously, if you think that they have settled out on you a little bit. And a chopstick is a good way to knock those air bubbles down. So again, I'm gonna go with 2 jars. Aren't these little glass jars cute? Now, one nice thing about glass is that it's a little easier to heat them up. So you'll find that the honey can go solid on you, and there's nothing wrong with it. That's perfectly normal. But if you want to heat it up and make it liquid again, you can put it in a little water bath, and glass is nice for that. You can just give it a little heat and it'll go back to a liquid form for you. I also love that the lids on these actually have a little honeycomb pattern. So next up, we're gonna do some with a pineapple weed or wild chamomile. That kind of has that fruity floral scent to it, I think, in flavor. You know, we have a favorite cookie with it. But since it is related to chamomile, it is considered to be good for sleep. So you can call this your sleepy time honey if you want. And yeah, gotta say, I really like the smell of this one too. Oh, shoot. Making messes. I found that's pretty much impossible not to do with honey, but the nice thing about it is that it's at least a tasty mess that does clean up fairly well. Give it a little wipe. I enjoy that. Next up, I think we will go with our clover. So clover is something that the bees really enjoy when it's blooming, and clover honey itself is quite nice. Now, honey can actually come in many different colors, different shades, and different flavors depending on what the bees were actually harvesting at that time. So clover honey is quite nice. We're going a little backwards. We're putting it back into the honey. And one thing that I want to try growing is chicory. Just because when I was reading a bee book, they were talking about how the pollen is actually blue, and I really want to see a little bee carrying around blue pollen in her baskets, because I think that would be super cute and super cool. And you know that clover can also make a really nice iced tea, as we've done in one of our past episodes. I feel like it's good, bad. Pretty much all of these things I've done interesting to me stuff with, and we've had other videos on, so I'll link in below other things we've done with them, like the fireweed jelly or the pineapple weed cookies. And you'll find that the stuff does float, and that's one of the reasons that you're going to want to turn these upside down on a daily basis, just to keep them covered so that you don't get any spoilage on top. As long as they stay under the honey, they'll be fine. All right. So now juniper berries. Now for these ones, I think I'm gonna give them a little crush just to release some of the flavors. And juniper is supposed to be nice with meats. So This is taking it kind of a different direction, a little closer to the like honey garlic, something that you might want to pair with a meat. Whereas the sleepy thyme, probably want to put in your tea. Honey is really versatile. I kind of forget the savory aspects of it sometimes. But it definitely, if you've had a honey garlic product, you know it can definitely go that way too. I'm kind of all over when I'm in the kitchen. This is normal. And I thought that would help keep things in there. It sort of did, it sort of didn't. Yeah, pretty nice. Of course, everyone always associates juniper with gin, I suppose. But today we're throwing it in honey. See how that goes. All right. I think we are going to do linden flowers. So linden blossoms, we made a syrup with them in the past, and the bees absolutely adore linden trees and the blossoms, so they are all up in there. Same thing, kind of going backwards. We're just going to infuse the flowers back into the honey. And linden is supposed to be good for anxiety. Again, it's calming, and it has a nice floral flavor. I wish I had more words to describe different floral flavors. Very distinctive. And very pleasant. All right, I think that my honey pitcher is getting a little low, so I'm gonna go grab a little bit from the hot room and be right back. A hive can actually produce somewhere around 200 pounds of honey. So I guess we could have had up to 800. I don't think we had that much. I haven't done the tally of what we actually got. But it's a lot of honey. And bees are very industrious little guys, little ladies. I should say little ladies. There are some drones in there, but they are mostly female. And so for these last two, I'm gonna go with more of a savory again. This is our prairie sage. Again, we've done a video on it. Now I'm trying to think what the recipe was in there. Something. Oh, I think a chicken sheet meal, one sheet wonder that we make all the time with root veggies and chicken. Though you can substitute different proteins if you want. I'm just gonna try one. Now they actually say that sage honey is good for sore throats. I think I'd argue that people use honey for sore throats, period, but that is what I read, so hopefully this gives it a little extra goodness for when someone has a sore throat. There we go. And I'm gonna have to find, oh, there we go, I do have lids. And for our final one, I'm gonna use bee balm. So this is kind of oregano-like, and some call it the pizza plant because it pairs really well with tomatoes and is good on pizza. But it is also something called bee balm, and that's because the bees, again, really enjoy it. This summer, though, I was listening to Linda Black Elk, and she was talking about how there are actually compounds in this plant that are supposed to help bees help support their immune system. So it's a flower that is native to our area and something that I definitely want to grow more of around the yard, just to help the bees if I can and other pollinators. So that's something, even if you don't raise bees, once you do, you start paying attention to what's blooming all year round. And if you want to just help them out and you like to garden, or even if you don't, putting out flowers that bloom in the different various seasons, so they have a food source in spring and summer and fall, is really helpful to the honeybees or to your local native bees. So do your part and make sure that they have something to gather from. All right, well, I've run out of little jars, so this is going to be our infusions for this season, I guess. And like I said, you just kind of flip them upside down once a day if you can. and in a week or two, strain out the contents and put it back in the jar. Now, if you are interested in watching us sample these and trying to describe them, let us know in the comments down below, and we will see what we can do about making a second video, a follow-up. Otherwise, be happy to hear which one you think is the most exciting, or which one you'd like to try, or which ones you have made in the past. Always happy to get your guys' feedback and comments, so please do that. And until next time, have fun experimenting. All right, well, it's only been a day, but I wanted to show you guys what's going on with our garlic honey. I don't know if you can see it, but there are tiny bubbles in there, and the liquid it's getting more liquid. It's less viscous. And when you open that cap, it really hits you with a strong garlicky, strong garlicky scent. So there is already a lot of action, and it's only been 24 hours. So just a reminder that you normally want to keep the lid loose, but when you're, giving it a bit of a shake, make sure the lid is on tight. You see, look at how, it's runnier than honey already. And then just be sure to loosen that lid when you're done mixing it up. And it was recommended that you have it on a plate because she's pretty active in there and it might bubble over at some point. But really exciting and cool to see how much has happened in just 24 hours.